Oh, yeah, you have my Facebook.
I will get that on there. You're ready
I
to
know
go.
you're amazing. You are amazing. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Good morning. I believe it is still morning today, March 18th, which is SBDC Day for everyone out there who is not aware of it. Our Talk of Success podcast is coming out of hiatus in honor of SBDC Day. So, today we're here and we're going to talk about so many things because of what we're going through. But first, I do want to give thanks to a shared studio podcasting for always being here for us, simply because without them we could not be able to do this. I know I'm not going there technology wise. Also to our special guest and social entrepreneur who I have the utmost respect for, Marilyn Schlossbach, which was our or it still is, our Success Award winner from 2019, and we're going to get into her whole thing. But I want to talk a little bit about SBDC Day. And usually, what we do during SBDC Day, we usually try to get clients to come in or have actual events where we have people congregating. But because of what's going on nationally, because of this coronavirus 19 that's out there, we can't do that. So as you can see from the way we are sitting, we are practicing social distancing. There's, enough space, 6 feet from us in between us here at the shared studio. And Ming told me he disinfected the room, so we are good to go. So just going back to America's SBDC and just sharing a little bit more about the SBDC and what we do. So this is our fourth year, I believe, that we are practicing or having this special day. SBDC Day. And SBDC, America's SBDC, for those of you who are not aware of it, is a national organization. And what we do through our organization is we provide services to entrepreneurs and small business owners who are looking to grow their business or start their business. America's SBDCs are the leaders in job creation and are attributed to creating measurable economic impacts. That being said, I want you to know that 5.6 billion in finances has been attributed through the services provided by SBDC, which is pretty amazing. I want you to know that 90% of the SBDC clients that come through our doors find our services beneficial. And I do believe we have a client here who can attest to that. 60% of the SBDC clients that come through our doors actually decide to start a business, get it off the ground, and make it sustainable. When they're giving out stars, and the maximum stars that you could get out there is 5, we tend to get four stars, which is pretty good. When someone puts out there that they get 100%, I'm always leery about that because I'm like, really? You make everybody happy? I know we don't. And I tell the people in our office, because our particular center, which is out of Brookdale Community College, covering Monmouth and Ocean County, we get about a 95% in our survey. So when someone calls us and they're disgruntled, I tell them, I'm sorry, you're part of that 5% that's not happy with our services, right? Because you can't make everybody happy, but we try our best, right? And 93% of the SBDC clients do recommend our services to other individuals. In terms of people we serve, 51% are women, 28% are minorities, 6% are veteran. So we serve a diverse population out there, which is pretty amazing. I mean, right now we're celebrating 40 years, and that's for American SBDC nationally. Here in the state of New Jersey, I'm happy to say we're a little older than that because we started the pilot program. Our particular center was part of the program when it started with the Small Business Administration. So we're at about 42 years. So I think that's pretty awesome knowing that We were at the beginning at the forefront, and because of the services we were providing to the small business community, it kept on growing. The relationship we have with our host institution, Brookdale Community College, is pretty amazing. They've allowed us to continue doing outreach and bringing services to the small business community. They understand how important community is. As our president says, our middle name is community at Brookdale Community College. So knowing that we are here to service the community in all aspects. When I'm talking about Brookdale, I always tell people I'm a hybrid. I work for two organizations, the New Jersey Small Business Development Center Network and Brookdale Community College. So with that, the purpose of this podcast is to provide entrepreneurs and small business owners with some insight, empowerment, motivation, and education on how to assist them in their entrepreneurial journey. So some of you have seen us before or heard of us because we are on Facebook. This is currently being taped, so you may actually see us live or view us during a watch party. Either way, this particular podcast, we are going to be sharing a great deal of information, once again, because of everything that's going on nationally. So, rather than to keep on talking, I do want to step back a little because I am once again honored to have our guest here, Marilyn Schlossbach, entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, I have to say at that. And I want her to say a little bit about herself because I can talk about Marilyn tremendously. Like I said, Marilyn to me is an amazing individual. She is what you call a social entrepreneur. She doesn't just think about profits, which most entrepreneurs do, and that's okay. She thinks about people. She thinks about the planet. She thinks about the place that we live in. How do you give back? I mean, I see Marilyn, and that's what I see. She is constantly giving back. The energy that she puts out, I don't know how she does it. Being a mom, being an entrepreneur, she has twins, runs several businesses. I'm tired. You know, she is a humanitarian, I have to admit. She won not won, but we presented her with our Women Entrepreneurs Rock Award for her badassery and humanitarianism. And it is because she's constantly doing this and she doesn't stop and she makes us want to do more. And for that, I truly appreciate Marilyn. But Marilyn.
Hello,
welcome.
Everybody. It's funny you bring that badassery word in. The last 2 days I've been trying to explain to my twin 7-year-olds that badassery isn't a bad word because they keep calling me out on it. I have a button on my desk that says badass on it. And I said, when you use it like that, when it relates to women, it's a good word. So. So, I have a couple different hats. I have a new one this year. I'm the chairwoman of the New Jersey Restaurant and Hospitality Association, which is an interesting role to play in the last week with everything that's going on with COVID-19 and how it's affecting our industry. And, just like you, we are a leadership organization, and we are also a hub for information. So keeping clarity on what's real and not real and the resources that are available is very important in times like this when people get so much thrown at them in the media or on social media that our organizations become a hub of safety in that information. So that role has been very exciting and filled with constant communication over the last week, in addition to being, a leader in my own business and trying to lift everybody up in what they're going through, and a mother, which probably for me in the past 2 days has been the most challenging. Homeschooling, I have to give applause to every single teacher out there in the world who takes care of our children every day and inspires them to lift up their minds and bodies, because it's really challenging to do that when you're trying to run a business and you're trying to go through the obstacles that have been thrown our way in the last week. When I used to say, I just get up and do it. Now I'm getting up and doing it with like a deer in headlights. So,
I have to agree with you. We were talking a little earlier, and I said, if I had to do that now, thank goodness my kids are adults. I'm gray now. I would have gone gray then. Again, you're right. What we're going through now, it's unprecedented, but as humans, if we look at history, we will make it through this. It's one thing I want to put out there. But before we get into that, because Marilyn and I are going to talk about resources, information as we go through this podcast. But before that, I do want to talk about Marilyn, right? So stepping back a little, and I want to know more about Marilyn, right? So how did you know that you wanted to go into the food service business, industry, hospitality, because it's all kind of wrapped together. So stepping back, share a little bit more about you, because the resource part, we're going to get there, but just a little entertainment now, especially I think it's a wonderful time that we could share positive cues here. How did it get there? Was it all positive anyway? So.
Well, I wouldn't say anything in life is all positive. But I will say that those obstacles and challenges become your growth. If everything was hunky-dory and we were all just skipping around the neighborhood, we wouldn't learn any lessons and we wouldn't challenge ourselves as human beings. So, my start began 30-something years ago in Avon, New Jersey, as a waitress working for my brother at a restaurant called O'Shin. The challenging part at the time was my mother was going through stage 11 terminal cancer. They had given her about 30 days to live through conventional medicine and resources, and my brother at the time was into macrobiotic dieting, and I had always just felt odd about the 80s version of food preparation and the onset of chemicals and additives and food in all of our food. It was an overprocessed era of food. It was, this new frontier of plastics and additives that were exciting and being marketed everywhere. And because of my upbringing, my father, we were discussing earlier, was born in 1898.
Right.
So in addition to being through 2 world wars and the Great Depression, he also was brought up without technology of any kind, without processed food of any kind. So it was instilled at me in a very young age that even with makeup, you don't need to wear makeup. That stuff is bad for your face. You just need to be pure and beautiful and eat good things. So, to him, the whole explosion of MTV and all of it was just crazy. It was very impactful. So I always had that balance of trying to find healing through food. And when my mother got sick, I really took on looking at organic food, looking at local food. I had relatives who were in the horse and farming business, so I was connected to the earth through that. So at the restaurant, I learned about macrobiotics and balance, and we used to go to New York and buy our food from the markets direct. And one day we just had an obstacle, a chef who didn't show up for some various reasons I don't want to put out into the universe, even shared. And I got thrown in the kitchen. So, though I was interested in that kind of cuisine and being healthier, I was raised with processed. That was the era of diet soda, of Doritos, like just packaged easy. I did not know how to cook anything. So it was eye-opening, but I got the bug. I was actually accepted to University of Miami for marine biology, which is one of my real loves.
I was going to
the
say,
ocean.
you're always in the water. I have
Yeah.
to say, every time you're in the
Well,
water or by the water.
Yeah, and I love it. And someday, I always said maybe I would go back to something like that, but life took a hold of me, and I got on a different path. And sometimes I think we just have to look at what the universe is presenting, and the synchrodestiny of your future is not always in your hands. So I took a different route, and I stayed home. I didn't go to college. I had some challenges with my school transcripts, and it just seemed like something was pushing me away from that and holding me back to New Jersey. And I ended up being the chef in that restaurant going forward. So to say that I put the cart in front of the horse was probably the truth. And I think true entrepreneurs have this almost blinders of obstacles when it
We don't
comes
see
to
it. We choose not to see it or
or
not acknowledge.
to me, it didn't even exist.
Right.
I look back and say, woman-owned restaurant, woman chef, woman purchaser. That was my most challenging. We dealt with a
That's
lot of
interesting.
Asian markets, and a woman signing the checks and ordering the things and expecting respect was the toughest part of my
That's pretty
my
interesting.
beginning. But, I just kind of shook my head in those moments and forgot I was even a woman or at that point somewhat of a child. I was only 19, 20 years old. So, just imagine
Perseverance.
some 40-year-old man having this little kid tell them what to do, and
I can imagine how that went over.
yeah, but at the end of the day, my father always told me, you just tell them you sign the checks. If they want to get paid, your name's on the check.
And that worked, huh?
It worked to some extent. I'm sure there was a lot of chatter behind the scenes about me, but I didn't see it. And, I was raised by complicated parents. Out in the universe, people know that my mother had a lot of challenges in her life. But one thing they always taught me was to take care of your community. And they were very giving. My father had a mortgage company called Seashore Title and Mortgage, and he started it to give loans to people in Neptune and Asbury Park who couldn't get bank financing. So there were always people at our house mowing the lawn, cleaning the windows to pay the rent to him or the mortgage. And when he died, I was left with a few of those mortgages. And, this was a long time ago, but these mortgages were like $120 a month for these homes that my father had financed as long as it took so that those people could have ownership. So it really taught me in my heart that it's important to take care of your community. And if you are ever challenged in times like we're going through, or Sandy, which wasn't even a decade ago,
Right.
that just rises up. And, you have to hold it together, and you have to think of not just yourself, because the world does not revolve around one of us. And we're seeing that in this pandemic, how we are all connected
Absolutely.
in some way.
And globally at that,
Yeah.
for those that think that we are separate from the rest of the world, we are not. This is globally, that we have to take care of each other. But wow, I didn't know that about your father. Now I can see where your whole social aspect comes from, because I do believe that it does start at home. Similar, not similar, but my mom taught us that it was always about giving back to your community, and that's part of who I am, and that's what I try to instill in my children who are adults, who find what brings them joy in giving back to the community. They find, my daughter loves mermaids, so she gets really involved with the Asbury Park Mermaid Parade and things that have to do with kids. My son is
Of which we are a sponsor.
flag? Yeah, she was holding the flag this year. So I have to put it out there. So they find the things, and I always say, find what makes you happy, but continue to give back. And I taught them, we are community. It's not one person, but everyone. And we have to look at that, especially today and everything that we are going through. I mean, these are some amazing lessons that you brought up, that you have gone through and that you've learned. And no wonder you're so amazing. I have to say, and again, I really do. I look up at certain people. I don't look up to too many people because I feel that, I don't know, some people take that to their head. You are not one of them. Every time I've sat or I've had the opportunity to sit on a panel with you, I've learned something, and I appreciate that. I'm a lifelong learner, so when I sit with someone and I can learn something from them, I appreciate that. And thank you for always being a teacher for me. So I am grateful for that. As a teacher, I have to say, what mistakes have given you the most significant lessons in life? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I'm making mistakes all the time. One thing as an entrepreneur, sometimes you move ahead of yourself a little bit. As a spiritual being, this isn't going to be my only rodeo. So I believe I'm here to learn the lessons. To me, the mistakes aren't what define you. It's what you learn from the mistakes that move you forward or hold you back. So I'm sure I will make a mistake today. I have a staff meeting. I'm on a podcast, probably saying something I shouldn't.
I know that we turn around and I said what? Once I hear this, I go, what?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe that's not what should have came out, but that's okay. We
Yeah.
live and learn.
Yeah, I think we need to make mistakes to have growth. And the judgment of mistake making is, for me, not what I want to do, even when it's happening, whether it's your government, your leadership, your coworker, your kids. I tell my kids all the time, it's okay, just acknowledge the mistake. Let's learn from it. Don't lie about it. Don't suppress it. We all do it. This whole life we're in is a learning process. And every experience we have is something, can be something new and growth spurting, and can be thought of as a beautiful movement instead of something that buries us. We are going through the most challenging situation the world has ever known in my lifetime. And
In ours.
yeah,
Same thing.
maybe in any
Yeah.
on our planet. So how are we going to put all our pretense aside and come together and move through that? And yeah, that comes with maturity for sure. I can imagine if I was 20 right now, my fear would probably consume me. And there are a lot of young people in business, more so than when I was young. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs doing
And we
great
do.
things. And, I just want them not to be scared of their mistakes and their fears. We're all in it. If my business is suffering, unless I'm really bad at my business, and then I should take a whole different look at what I'm doing. And that doesn't even make me a bad person. That just makes me maybe not in the right place when I talk about that synchrodestiny of life. The universe does tell you things, and sometimes it's telling you to take a look at something in yourself. Maybe you're on a wrong path, or maybe your choices aren't coming from a good spot in you because you're being fueled by fear or anger, and that's when I've seen my choices not always be good for me or those around me, when I let my fears take over me. So there have been many, and I have hurt people along the way, and I'm always sad in my heart for that, but I also have compassion for myself and others, that we do make mistakes. And, as long as one day we say, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. That was not the best Marilyn. That's all I can do. I can't erase it.
You've hit two major things here, and I tend to write things down as we're talking on our podcast. And one is mistakes. I feel that I have two millennials at home. One that actually has learned how to take mistakes and say, okay, I made a mistake, I own it, I made a mistake. And another one who has a really difficult time saying, wow, I made a mistake, and really takes it to heart in a negative way, and how important it is. And I try my best for both of them to understand. And for anyone who comes in for counseling through the SBDC, we're all going to make mistakes. I make mistakes. I try to be the best Jackie I can be. The best Jackie doesn't always show up every day because Jackie is Jackie, and Jackie's human. So I am going to make mistakes, but I realize that it is a growth opportunity, that if I can learn from that mistake, it's going to make me a better person. And the other part is fear, that if you let fear stop you, you're never going to reach your potential. So turning around and saying, you know what, fear, you're not going to define me. Yes, anytime you step out of your comfort zone, there's fear associated with it. Fear in the not knowing. I'm a bit of an A personality. Some people may say more than a bit. But, what does that mean? That means that I tend to like being in control. It's part of who I am just because of life. Everything that has dealt me, whenever I've been in control, it's been a better outcome than when I've let other people be in control. So I'm in control most of the time. I've learned to let that go a little, though, just for my own sanity. It's a good thing. But that being the case, when you're looking, though, stepping back and saying fear, what is fear? Fear for me is, when I feel fear, it means, okay, you're kind of on the right path because you're stepping out of your comfort zone. If I was always to do what made me feel comfortable, what I wasn't fearful, I wouldn't grow. As an entrepreneur, I know that that's part of growing. That's part of being an entrepreneur, fearing the unknown, but knowing that you're going to move forward, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to achieve a level of success, no matter what that is. It may be a little or it may be a lot, but that's pretty awesome. So, when you put those things out there, I have to agree with you, Marilyn. Mistake, growth spurring movement for you, amazing. Fear is what you'll overcome, and that you're not a bad person.
Yeah.
To me, profound words. Thank you, Marilyn. Putting them down. When I have an opportunity, I'm going to quote you on Facebook. So now, because we are going to go back into in a little bit more, because I do want to talk about resources and other information that we have out there because of what's going on. But before we get to that, I want to talk about what 3 action items would you recommend and why for an entrepreneur that's getting themselves out there, or even someone who's in business already and looking to grow? Because anybody that's in business, I would imagine, wants to continue growing. Or else what's the point of being in business?
Yeah.
And from your perspective as a social entrepreneur, because that is something that I'm happy to say that earlier this year I was awarded a fellowship for social entrepreneurialism, and I went over to Wheaton and Wharton. I keep on getting the two schools confused, and that's terrible.
They're both very good, though. So,
but the one in Massachusetts is the one I went to. I'm like, what is in Pennsylvania? It's horrible. I have them confused in my head, but I believe it's Wheaton. And I went there for a fellowship to learn more about social entrepreneurialism. And it just falls into place with what our clients are looking for, because everybody's looking to have that philanthropic arm where they could give back, creating a business venture. And, as I'm learning more and more about it, it is so you. So when we're looking at that, what are the 3 action items that you would recommend and why? And becoming one, if not one already, or if you're in business and are looking to dive into the social aspect of entrepreneurialism.
well, I think, one, you need to know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who give for the wrong reasons and spread themselves in directions they might not be positively going in. Having a clear vision and mission for you and your company can help put the framework of how you want to get involved socially with your community. you can't be everything to everyone. And once you start that process, you become a magnet for it. And it's very hard to say no, for me, to say no to people when they need. But I also know that I have to find balance in being a for-profit and a nonprofit. And this has been the biggest struggle for me because of my Buddhist type spirituality and having learned the lessons of, I have to fill the cup up first. People always say to me, you confuse me. I thought you were a Democrat. And I say, well, Democrats need to make money. It's not just a Republican thing.
I like my house, and I want to drive my car.
And,
and I like vacations.
Yeah, I mean, we're all human beings.
I know. Who doesn't want to make money somewhere or another?
I mean, I would say I'm a purple person because I'm in the middle of wanting to find balance. Mm-hmm. And as an entrepreneur, a social entrepreneur, anything in life, you have to find balance. And to find that, you have to know who you are and what you want. So, if you're, in an industry that is connected to tech, find a tech social entrepreneurism. Find some sort of way to give back in that industry. If you're in the food industry, connect yourself to what drives you in that industry, because there is need everywhere. And we have to find what we're passionate about, because to give back, you shouldn't just be throwing money out there. You should have some social responsibility to your company and your employees, which has been my biggest hard lesson, because I give everything away, and that's including my energy and my well-being, which is not good for anyone. If you can't be strong and take care of the roots,
That's
then
a problem.
how are you going to
Yes.
help all the leaves grow, So I don't know how many lessons are in that. It's kind of an overarching lesson.
But it is, you made a great point. What I've learned is that you have to take care of you first. And that was hard lesson for me to learn throughout life. It took me till I was 50 years old to figure that out. The constant giving, and not giving myself, not being compassionate for myself, which you pointed out earlier, were things that I had to learn. And it took me turning 50 to stand up and say, wow, I either need to stop or I'm going to die really young. Between the stress, I just not happy, not being able to give back and wanting to give back. And that's when I realized that, as you said, if the cup is not half full or full on my end, what am I giving out? And as a SBDC consultant, anyone who's an SBDC consultant, we give a lot. And I currently see only 3 clients a day because that's all I can give. Some people may not think that's enough, but when I'm counseling someone and I'm giving information and I'm listening and I'm trying to analyze their problems and come up with solutions, by the end of the day, my counseling days, I'm exhausted. I have like nothing left for me. So I realized that, yes, you have to be able to take care of yourself, and that's huge. That I think that is the first place to start. That in order for you to be a success, you have to take care of yourself.
And everybody's levels are different. I'm constantly saying to myself, lower the bar. Seriously, because I can handle a lot more than my husband. I can handle a lot more than some of my team. And that doesn't make them less than me. It's just, what I was given, not just by my parents, but by the genetics of my family that is different than somebody else. And on the flip side, some days I have a really crappy day. And I'm hoping that I get compassion from the people around me in that I can't always be the one leading the pack. So we have to, balance is like a huge word for me this year. My 3 words for 2020 were collaboration, fun, and balance.
Nice.
Prior to all of this that's happening to us.
You still could get them in there.
Yes, I think even more than
I
ever.
think it's a necessity.
I started a supplement company that
Nice. I see that here.
I haven't really even pushed. I started it because I met a wonderful human being traveling in Nicaragua, who's an older Korean gentleman who runs full marathons like 6 times a year all over the world. And he was taking this moringa supplement and attributes his wellness at an older age, I think he's close to 80,
Wow.
to moringa. And we had a fall in love relationship at dinner one night in Nicaragua. And he said, well, why don't you do this in the States and I'll help you. So he helps me package this. But I'm only bringing it out in the world now because I know how powerful this herb is, this tree, this miracle tree, and I've been taking it for a few years, and my kids take it, and my husband takes it in crisis, so he's really taking it now, but he's not as eager
It's not the norm.
well, he's not a do everything every day kind of guy. But, the only reason I got behind this is because I believe and I'm passionate about it. And so the lesson for an entrepreneur is, if you're not really into what you're doing and you don't love it, why do it? We got involved in a restaurant in Long Branch recently, and it all stemmed from Women Who Rock, by the way. The gentleman who did this project was in the audience. And he said I inspired him to go after his dream. So he bought this building.
I'm so happy to hear that. It's wonderful always to hear how one of our events was able to inspire someone else.
Yeah,
That's
and he
wonderful.
did it. And in that, though, he didn't think about some things. And he went on a journey of opening a business, a restaurant, a brewery, spending his life savings on this, but not knowing anything about how to run the business.
And would you like to share what?
Well, it's called Whitechapel Projects.
Okay.
And Preston is the gentleman, and he's a wonderful human being. We have a very kindred spiritual spirit. But we reconnected, thank God for him and for me, because he realized that he couldn't do what he was doing, that he went on a journey without really finding the balance of collaborating with people that could give him the tools he needed. So he reached out and we reconnected, and the only reason I agreed to do it, well, a couple reasons. One is because I believe he's a really wonderful human being. In Synchrodestiny, I met another wonderful human being who had some money. His name is Kurt, and another love business relationship, which enabled me to do this. And 3, the space that Preston created is magical, and it is going to allow me to do some things in my next leg of restaurant life that encompass food and farming and health and wellness. And I said to my team, I don't need another restaurant. I need less in my life. It really affects my family when I take on more than I can chew, because it trickles to them.
Right.
And I don't get to give them the resources of myself. So I wanted to make sure everyone was passionate about my goal to do this. And they are. I have a great team. We don't have a lot of us anymore. We've kind of gotten rid of a lot of our support because I wanted to build stronger roots in the company and make sure that everybody wants to be there. Because there's plenty of places to work, plenty of things to do in life, plenty of opportunities, especially for entrepreneurs. They come at you like wildflowers, they're just popping up everywhere. And you have to be kind of focused on what's driving you in the moment. I could open a different restaurant every month with all the opportunities that I find happening. But I have to get grounded and balanced in where am I going next? What do I need? What is going to make me passionate? Because if I'm not passionate about something, none of my team's going to be behind it. So find your passion. And finding Preston and connecting to this, I never would have thought we would have been where we are. And especially, we just got involved with him 2 months ago, probably the most inopportune time to relaunch
now.
a business,
Yeah.
But we'll get through it. We just need to communicate and help each other keep the fear at bay and just know that there's resources. I reached out to you the other day
Right,
about something.
absolutely.
I just want to make sure our ducks are in a row for whatever
When it
comes.
Absolutely.
And that's what you guys are good for,
Right.
because you never know what your next resource is going to be
Exactly.
needed.
I know. And that takes us into our next segment, actually, regarding our Talk of Success podcast, and it's going to be on resources, especially with what we are going through right now. So we've been receiving calls through our SBDC Center at Brookdale and network-wide. Now, in order for us to assist you, there's a few things that has to happen. So I am asking you that first and foremost, we need your assistance. You, and when I say you, our clients or anyone who is within our database is going to be receiving an email today, and that email is going to request that you take a survey. That survey and the information that you provide us with is going actually to the Small Business Administration, our regional office. And the reason we're collecting that information is in order for the federal government to release disaster funds to the state of New Jersey, the state of New Jersey has to declare it a disaster. The state of New Jersey has declared an emergency, not a disaster, which when I first heard it, I said, but the governor declared an emergency. And a colleague clarified and said, it's an emergency, not a disaster. Marilyn and I were discussing how terminology plays an impact on the resources we can receive. We learned that from Sandy. From a hurricane to a storm, it determined what the state of New Jersey could receive in terms of funding. So in that email that you're receiving, it's a letter from me, and I'm asking you, complete the survey. The information is confidential. It's really just asking your name, information, how is this coronavirus 19 affecting your business, and that information is being sent to our state headquarters. And that information is going to be provided to SBA. Based on that information, SBA wants to present it to the governor and say, basically, this is how it's impacting the small businesses. This is why you have to declare the state of New Jersey a disaster. So that's one. We're going to send out an email. We're also going to put the survey on our website. So if you don't receive the survey today, which it should be going out as this podcast is going out, so if you check your email and you didn't get an email from me, from the MOSBDC Center, then go on to our website. There will be a link with that information. The letter will be there as well, so you could see what I'm asking you for. Click on the survey, complete it for us. Some individuals have already called our center, and we were able to pick up that information. If you already called, there's no need to complete the survey again. If you feel more comfortable calling and having us call you back to capture that information, we will do so. And then regarding the state, we're trying to capture as much information regarding the resources that are available. And at this time, information is still developing. So while everyone is throwing information at you, we're trying to consolidate the information, but the bottom line is they're still trying to figure it out. We're still trying to figure out, are we going to be in a 15-day quarantine?